Just scrolling through Instagram as one does, and came across the listing for this house, and I just instantly fell in love with it. Hi, my name is Rebecca.
And my name is Jeff. So we're standing here in our dream house in Schenectady and are really looking forward to get rolling with plans for the house.
We're empty nesters. We're thinking about the next phase of our lives. We had often talked about maybe moving to a smaller city, but a city that had a lot of vibrancy to it, maybe a college town, a city where there's a bit of an art scene, something not too far from transport or access to larger cities. And so that's really been in our minds for some time, but we really hadn't done anything about it. And then one day I was just scrolling through Instagram as one does, and came across the listing for this house, and I just instantly fell in love with it. Just the incredible presence that it has really just spoke to me. I texted Jeff and I said, "Hey Jeff, for my birthday, I would like to go visit this house." And so we were driving up to see the house, and when we were about 10 minutes or so out from the house, I turned to Jeff and I said,
So I just want to set expectations for today. If we see this house and we like it, we might want to do something about it. And I thought this was nuts. But the moment we walked in, I think she knew that, when I saw the house, the exterior, the elevation of it, and how it sits right on the corner, the woodwork and everything on the inside, just from a different era. I think she knew she had me when she could get me through the front door. So we started to make plans, put numbers together, think about how it would work. And we very quickly came to the realization that while this house would be a dream for us, we'd be completely out of our depths going it by ourselves. You can get to a certain point in life and realize where your strengths are and where it's great to call on other people for their strengths. And we knew that this thing, the materials, the right treatment of the materials to restore and preserve and bringing the house back was just beyond our grasp. You see so many things where people will come in and they'll think, oh, I can get a contractor to do this and another to do that. And there's no seamless, larger vision for the house. So we realized that this is an opportunity for us to make this really sort of an education for us, but to learn from other people that have been doing this, that are experts in this field. So we found ourselves really kind of transcending over from just people seeing a lot of these houses on Instagram and think, oh, that one's great, that one's really cool, to actually going and leaning in and going for one of them. When you come to the house, in the same moment that you're realizing, wow, this is really remarkable structure and just beautiful details inside, you see all of, the masonry on the exterior that has all sorts of leaks, and you're walking through the house and you have intrusion of water in different areas. And fortunately, it spared, the coffered ceilings and areas like that. But there are areas of major repair. At the same time, we had excitement. We were building a list of serious red flags. We knew that this would not be for the faint of heart. This was going to be a major, major commitment. Once again, the sort of materials involved, it's not just, you have an IKEA shelf and going to IKEA and replacing it if it cracks. And so what you need to find is people that can help you care for them and restore them and bring them back. Right about the time that we started thinking about all of the systems and all of the heritage of the house, we realized that this was all going to get very big very quickly. I had followed a number of historical homes and historical preservation accounts on Instagram, and Kate Wood came into my feed. So Worth Preserving, Kate Wood's company. I just saw a number of posts on there that were really relatable to the challenges that we were going to be facing in this house. Here's someone who really has a grounding, that's the expertise, and should probably be one of the first people we contact about this. She brought in Keira, and Keira has all sorts of experience in rehabilitating historical homes in the Northeast and around Albany and Schenectady area. We were really impressed with Keira's projects and thought she was a great person to bring in the architectural side. It has just been a pleasure and an education for us, really, working with the two of them and their ideas, their process of really helping us work through, identify and work through the various components necessary to research, to start the planning, to start visualization of what the restoration and rehabilitation is going to look like. We just couldn't be happier to have both of them as, really helping us, guiding us through this process.
And then the kitchen.
When you first walk into the kitchen, I just love the height of the whole floor, the scale of it. Even though the room is small, the ceiling heights are just so great. You look around the room, and along with that scale, you see sort of the big, chunky trim work, all these windows and these low sills. And is it glue chip glass? Yeah, We're trying to learn. You see, it can happen. But it's echoed over here and over in the butler's pantry.
When I first walked into this kitchen, these were definitely one of the things that captured my attention right away. These doors, 4 of them. I assumed at first they were just all pantries, but then to open them and to discover that we have here the secret staircase going down, and then to discover here we have a secret staircase going up. That just felt so integral to the history of the house and the story of the house that no matter what, those are things that have to stay put. And then you have these corner closets, slightly challenging to use, but aesthetically pleasing. And then the last one, of course, that is part closet, part backing for the refrigerator on the other side. Also a really interesting use of space.
It tells you that this footprint of the kitchen is original. I mean, this is where the kitchen was in the original floor plan of this house, which makes sense because at the turn of the 19th century, the kitchen wasn't this central place in a house the way that we expect it to be today.
Right.
So for it to be tucked off, away from the rest of the house is natural for the time. And it does have all of these original features, even though it probably is one of the more altered spaces in the house, because that's what happens. Kitchens change every generation. But it's great that throughout that history, so many of those features were kept, even while, cabinets and flooring and lighting and other things were changed.
Yeah.
As we look and think about all the constraints and all the charm in this space, very defined by some important features that we don't want to alter. How are you starting to think about what you would need this space to do for you, and also how we can work, within this fabric to start looking at some solutions for that?
Well, when I think about how we use kitchen spaces now, I'd say Jeff and I kind of share the cooking. So we both cook. I don't know if love to cook is in our vocabulary, but we do like to cook, and we have grown children, and we have 3 dogs. And so oftentimes there are many other people in the kitchen space besides just the person who's cooking. And I think that's time we really value as a family, because it, oftentimes one of the kids will want to help out with cooking, or the dogs are always happy to help out, whatever has fallen on the floor. So it's a group activity, I would say. And it's also just time when we're connecting as a family. So I think those are things that I think about when I look around a space. I'm like, where would the dogs be, and where would someone kind of pop in and help me with, cutting vegetables, or where will the coffee pot and the teapot, which are very important to us, go, and
where are the zones?
Where are the zones? Exactly. So those are the things that I find tricky when I look around this kitchen, because there aren't very many zones.
And you think, how am I going to put a kitchen in this room in the way that we understand and live in a kitchen today? So that's sort of like the blessing and the challenge, I'll say, of entering this kitchen, seeing it, and then thinking, oh boy, what are we going to do here?
So I think, it would be easy to come in here and just start critiquing, like, well, why is the stove in the middle of this little peninsula, and why is the sink way over here? But I think they probably did the best they could within this footprint. Fortunately, we're at a moment when, due to wear and tear and just, the life that this kitchen has already seen, it's time for a new kitchen. So we're not tearing out brand new cabinets or granite countertops or anything like that. Now is really, we have the opportunity to rethink this kitchen. Absolutely. And I think another thing that comes to mind as we're standing here, we really get a sense for the tightness of the space. And, you know, we look back to the rest of the house, and the rooms are so grand and comfortable and expansive. And the rooms really have this lovely connectivity that we know is something that's really appealing to you guys. When you're in this kitchen space, you're in the kitchen space. You don't feel that connection to the rest of the house. You see a connection to the pantry, and it's amazing that it's right there and intact. But aside from that, you feel very isolated. Size-wise, relative to the scale of the rest of this house, it is so petite. And I think there's an opportunity to think about, you know, I refer to it as right sizing. Yeah. What is the appropriate scale and dimensionality of a kitchen for a house of this size in today's world, where the kitchen is also a bit of a living room and a family room and an entertaining space, and it also wants to be able to feel home and quiet and organized.
We love the classic Victorian room upon room upon room, and not just some big wide open layout. Yeah. On a different layer, the surfaces and finishes you see before you, we have so many great things to start with. But also when you were mentioning what to keep and what to reconsider and that sort of thing. And, you know, even this, we don't know what's beneath these linoleum floors, but I have to say that having seen the checkerboard, you know, fading into the butler pantry and that big piece in there, that sticks with me. And I think it sticks with me into the design process. So in a way, kind of honoring the folks who lived here most recently and all that they hit upon something visually that is meaningful.
So the thing about historic rehabilitation is, in the definition, it talks about change and even additions. So having an addition to a historic house is not beyond the definition of historic rehabilitation. So it's built right into it. The idea that at a certain point, in order to avoid impacts on other character defining features, that it may become necessary to think about adding on to the house. So, you know, we did start with what can we do with the existing footprint, but, you know, we were able to move into that kind of thinking about the possibility of an addition pretty seamlessly once we had precluded, you know, the other options.
And I would say, just to add to that, there was one thing that was sort of unlocked as it, in addition to that, which was we were looking for one other, like a half bath somewhere.
Right.
And, you know, there's this little angled closet, and it meets up with sort of a door on the other side, too small to really make it work. And we didn't want to change anything about this. But the notion of an expansion gives a little space that we could consider having a half bath somewhere in the context of all of this.
Yeah.
Because the other bathroom on this floor, presumably, is hidden down the flight of stairs. And so there's no bathroom, there's no half bath on this level.
You guys have given us so much to think about, and it's really exciting to entertain the idea of your needs and your wishes and marry them with the rest of this fabulous house. So really, after this thorough design process and vetting of these options, we ultimately decided that, one, this octagonal room, perfect as is, we don't want to take it apart. We don't want to lose part of the octagon to add that space to the kitchen. The stairs, the upstairs portion and the downstairs to the basement portion, non-negotiable. We're keeping them as is. Too special and too important to the history of the house. When we start thinking about an addition, I mean, there are all kinds of ways that you as an architect could approach that in terms of design, in terms of the standards that we're using for this house for historic rehabilitation. Because this is going to be a historic tax credit project, we have to work with the Historic Landmarks Commission. The right thing is to start with the house and then see what is appropriate in terms of an addition. So it's not just, you know, we have free reign. Right. there are still constraints, and then thinking about those challenges for the design. And even then we were looking at different ways of going about it. Absolutely. And free reign is almost the opposite of what we have. And that's good. I think it's good to work within boundaries and confines, if you will. We have our site condition. We don't have infinite land here. We're in an urban lot. And most importantly is thinking about how to marry this new architectural feature with this very special historic hall. Yeah. So when we originally started looking at this addition, we were problem solving to begin with. What are the spatial needs that we need to account for to get the programmatic element to connect back to the spaces in the house? And some of the guidance that you've been able to share with respect to how does one think about an addition on an older home has been foundational to our approach. Yeah. So, I mean, with regard to the Secretary of the Interior standards, which guide historic rehabilitation, the first rule is to avoid damaging historic features and fabric that really define the character of the house. Another fundamental rule, if you're thinking about an addition, to locate it in a secondary space, so off the back of a house would be an appropriate place to contemplate an addition. So already we're in the right zone because we're on this back corner of the house. It's minimally visible from the street. The other piece of guidance that these standards set is to try to create a separation between the addition and the original house so that it clearly reads as something that was added after the date of original construction. It's this kind of quote-unquote hyphen feature. And so when we talked about that, we went from something that butted right up against the house to something that still allows that flow from the original floor plan, but that creates this space, this clear distinction between the old and the new. Yeah. And I love that. I love this hyphen idea. And it sort of allowed us to move with some different freedom because previously we were trying to figure out some of the technical structural elements, like how would this roof connect to the house and what would that impact upstairs on the second floor. We were coming up on some hardships there. So the hyphen has given us like literal breathing room with how the roof form could work. And it's done some other great things, which allows us to celebrate the existing corner fabric. We've got this beautiful stone detailing, and we have plenty of material that we're going to be able to use to restore that masonry and allow this corner to be a very sort of defined edge, and then create this sort of quiet hyphen. And then it allows our new kitchen element to exist just outside of that. Yeah. And so we're basically solving for all the kitchen programs and elements and functionality. And we're also including here in our solution some things that we know that we need and love today: mudroom, powder room, and rear access from the driveway. This scheme, as we start to develop it, will be looking at all sorts of details that we can pull from the house as inspiration, but our approach will not be to make this look old. We do not want to copy. Yeah. We want to let it be of its time and still be something that, works with the house, but isn't trying to pretend that it's something that it isn't. And another key guideline is that the addition should not compete with the house. So it needs to defer, and it needs to, like you said, be quiet compared to the historic house. So it shouldn't grab all the attention to itself. It should feel like a very natural, no bigger than it absolutely needs to be. And in terms of materials, be compatible and harmonious, but still be beautiful, beautiful quality. Design is everything with this addition. Yeah. We're going to be very intentional about how it sits in the landscape and the transitions out into the gardens. The first floor in this house sits up quite a bit above the street level. So in our detailing, we're really going to need to consider that so it doesn't feel like it's up on this plane. But what this solution has allowed the current kitchen to do is just sort of be, and calling it right now a lounge. So it's sort of this intermediate space between the existing octagonal room and the new kitchen. We have the ability to build a banquette in here, so we have some quiet, cozy family seating. It completely works with the windows in the sill. Yeah, we can capture a little bit of space in one of the closets for a display nook for some of the teapot collection. Rebecca's tea. And we are experimenting with some ideas with how to potentially integrate the pantry into this lounge area a little bit more, with the idea perhaps of a small bar counter there. Lots to think about, lots of detail, and a lot to develop, but it's feeling like a very respectful solution that's also exciting from how it solves the program to the clients.
So I hope you enjoyed meeting Rebecca and Jeff, the owners of the Gilded Age Rescue. We're so excited to be on this journey with them. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
I almost bought that house in 2013. I live the next street over. It's amazing. Can't wait until they show the elevator.
I know. I think when we first kind of went through, we missed it a little bit, and then it was sort of
walked right by it.
Another pass, and we're like, wait, what is this?
Yeah.
And then you sort of realize what it is. And then when we finally saw a picture that someone sent in of people posing in the elevator, it was really fun. You can imagine that's a good sort of,
especially since there's
piece.
Not a huge sort of frame or construct upstairs. It's just sort of a hatch.
Exactly.
I'm kind of curious how that works.
Yeah. All right. Nothing makes me sadder than seeing original woodwork painted white. Why? This home is so incredibly beautiful. So wonderful to have clients who appreciate what they have, who want to keep it original and can afford to bring it back to its glory.
Could not agree more. This place, we are embracing the woodwork, the dark hardwoods, all of it. So no need to worry about whitewashing anything white around the house.
Yeah, no, we like the original.
So happy to see people saving these beautiful works of art that we will never see again. And that is definitely heartfelt.
Yeah, definitely. I think houses like this are so special, and I think we're feeling really fortunate to be able to play a role in helping to keep this house going, to have the opportunity to love it ourselves, but then also to know that we're helping it be ready for future generations, so that many people get to see this house.
Absolutely. Need to see more of that fireplace tile. Well, believe me, we're getting to scratching.
The soirees I would host on that porch, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I definitely can imagine some great parties, but also just in the summer with a nice freshly brewed iced tea and just sitting on the porch.
Quietly soaking it in.
Yeah, reading a book, or in the fall, watching the football games across the street, or just enjoying connecting with the community from the porch.